video is going to be about the idea of creating a hypothesis. But before we get on to that, I just wanted to review what we looked at in the last video. In the last video, I gave you a little task, which was to rate yourself on a scale of 1 to 10 and then suggest what you would be doing differently when you've moved one along that scale. And I just want us to reflect on that task, because all the tasks that we explore, the activities, all the approaches of mentoring, although they're tried and trusted approaches there, you are going to need to select the appropriate question, the appropriate activity, the appropriate way of working with whoever your person is that you're working with, whether that be adult or a child there. So you need to have a critical view of what's going on. So let's have a look at that rating activity critically for a minute. Now, it could be a very positive activity because it's a simple activity. It's something that's not pressurizing anybody. They're just rating themselves in their head. They're never telling anybody about it. So it doesn't put them on the spot. It's hopefully an informal, relaxed activity. And that's one of the things we said that mentoring should be reasonably informal. The outcomes are quite concrete. There's certain things that they've said that will change, that if somebody walked into the classroom, this is what we see, or this is what we would actually hear. So it can be very positive in the sense of creating small marginal gains, what's sometimes known as ipsative assessment, people assessing themselves against themselves. How are they going to get better at something? Marginal gains, small steps that we can make that gradually become bigger and bigger until they make a really meaningful achievement. It's a good idea to do a little bit of research on those. Have a look up marginal gains. So Dave Brailsford used in sports a lot, ipsative assessment as well, Latin word, but have a look up that. On the other hand, of course, that rating exercise could be a problem, because we don't know whether the person we're working with has the ability to objectively rate themselves on that scale of 1 to 10. Do they have that emotional intelligence to be able to be honest with themselves about how well they are doing with something? Do they have that ability to create realistic changes? Are the things they're going to suggest possible or even relevant to what we're trying to achieve in our work with that particular person? So in other words, we need to keep an open mind as to these activities and how we're best going to use them with the people we are working with. And that's the reason why today's session is about the idea of creating a hypothesis, because a hypothesis suggests to us that there can be different reasons why something is happening, and it's about trying to find or make sure that we are working on the right problem and not making assumptions about why somebody is struggling in some way, for example. I just want to give you a very simple example, and this example is only brief. It doesn't take into account all the other things that you were doing mentoring, but I'd just like you to imagine a girl called Sarah. Sarah has joined a school in year 8. She didn't come in year 7, she's only just joined in year 8. And her attendance is very low. It's below about 60% and is triggering all sorts of bits and pieces that are going on there. Now, obviously, there'll be a lot of things that we're going to be doing, but I just want to deal on the idea of the hypothesis at the moment. So we might find, for example, that Sarah is living just with her mother, that her parents may be divorced. And it may be, that hypothesis could be, that Sarah doesn't want to be leaving her mother on her own. Sarah might think that her mother wants her to stay at home. It could be, on the other hand, that Sarah's mother generally does want her to come stay at home, and therefore not putting much effort in getting her to go to school. We could be thinking about Sarah's health problems. Is she sleeping okay? Is there any medical reason why she might not be coming to school? Right, so we've got to keep that into account there. What's life like for Sarah at the school? Is she happy at school? Has she made friends? Is it because she has arrived in year 8 where all the friendship groups have already been established earlier on in year 7? Or is it because Sarah struggles to make friends? Does she not have some of the skills needed perhaps to form those relationships? Is she just not that very confident? What's her attitude towards learning? Is she keeping up with the work even though she's actually not there most of the time, or a large chunk of the time? Is it because she is quite a gifted child? Is she managing okay so she doesn't see the need to keep going to school. Now, those are just a few examples of the sort of hypothesis, and that's just with Sarah and with adults and other people and with teachers. We make the same kind of idea. It's about keeping an open mind. Obviously, in terms of the whole mentoring, there would be a lot more questions we would be asking, a lot more we would find out about Sarah. But it's keeping an open mind as what the problems might actually be, rather than just making an assumption about something. So that's really important as we move forward into video 3, which will be coming next, because we're going to be looking at how we start structuring mentoring sessions, the sort of questions that we would actually ask at the beginning, going through towards the end of mentoring sessions. And one of the first things that we'll be doing is making sure that we are working on the right problem, exploring the problem, making sure that we are working in the right area. It's based on something called Egan's model, and what you might like to do before we move on to video 3 is just do a little bit of research on Egan's model, E-G-A-N-S for Egan's model of mentoring, and see what you find out about that, and that will give you a bit of background before we start the next video. So I shall see you in video 3.
If you found this video helpful, you might be interested to learn more about YouCan. YouCan is our new, ever-growing, on-demand video CPD service for schools. Each course is made up of a series of modules just like the one you've just watched. Each module is designed to be highly practical with ideas that you can use right away. We're growing our library of courses every week to meet the demands of our subscribers. There's a huge wealth of training that you and your colleagues will be able to access if your school subscribes. Our short, practical videos make it easy and enjoyable to learn, so you can do anything you set your mind to.